Donatello is my favorite Ninja Turtle, always has been. In every form of media, he's a tech-obsessed dork, he's a lovable nerd, and he's the know-it-all of the group. So I was also surprised when Donatello is the best of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Commander. In particular, the Mutant Mechanic version of Donatello. He's mono blue in every one of his solo iterations, but this one speaks to me. He's got the best combo potential, and he's a mechanic to boot. So let's look at a high-powered, combo-focused brew featuring my favorite Ninja Turtle. Donatello Mutant Mechanic is a 4-mana 3/5 with 2 important abilities. First, he puts counters on artifacts and turns artifacts into creatures if they weren't already. This is excellent for a few reasons that we'll get into, but most importantly because stacking up counters on your creatures is a win con in multiple ways. But second, Donnie acts as a kind of ozolith for counters on artifacts. When an artifact with counters hits the graveyard, you can put those counters on another artifact or creature you control. This kind of gives all of your artifact creatures modular, which is very cool and important. Moving around counters saves them in so many instances, and also lets you store your counters on things that maybe shouldn't always have counters on them. It also lets you move those counters from things that have lots of counters to things that need lots of counters, which is the crux and focus of this deck. So we're going to use this ability to win across 4 key vectors. First, the most boring, combat damage. We have the ability to go wide or tall thanks to our commander. We can build up an army of Thopters or robots, then use a Cyberdrive Awakener to make them all threatening 4/4s with flying, or put counters on all of them with a Steel Overseer or Iron Spider. Combat, as usual, is a fallback plan. It's never plan A, but it works as an option, usually the last option, to take players out of the game or just prevent yourself from getting taken out. Rise and Shine also does work here, since we can build up a lot of small artifacts and, when you have a dozen or so creatures, make them all 4/4s with counters on them. That's a threat to anyone at the table. Being able to move a bunch of counters onto an Ornithopter of Paradise and fly in for a combat damage victory is a perfectly viable line of play in this deck. Again, this is boring, but it works. It's nice to have a plan C for combat in any list. But the exciting parts are lines with non-combat damage wins. Thanks to Walking Ballista, we can machine gun down our opponents by moving counters from our multitude of creatures over to the Ballista. We need some kind of sacrifice engine like an Arcbound Ravager or an Extruder, but once we work up a mass of counters across our army, piling them all onto Walking Ballista can mean game over for opponents. We could do the same thing but win with infect damage thanks to an Ink Moth Nexus, piling on counters and flying in for a cheap and easy KO. With equipment like Adaptive Omni Tool or Nettle Cyst, we may not even need to move counters around to make this happen. Then we've got other lines where we could also just win the game on the spot, like with a Darksteel Reactor. See, moving counters around from artifacts that get lots of charge counters, like an Eternity Vessel or a Vexing Puzzle Box, over to a Darksteel Reactor can win you the game at instant speed. Unlike a lot of alternate win cons, Darksteel Reactor doesn't need to wait for an upkeep to trigger. As soon as it has 20 counters on it, blammo, game over. You can cast an Eternity Vessel, sacrifice it to a Quark Clan Ironworks, and have Donnie move those charge counters to the reactor for an instant win. Since new spacecraft like Uthros Research Craft or the Eternity Elevator get charge counters when you station them, we could bank up counters until we find the reactor, drop it, and end the game. Unless someone can exile or bounce your indestructible reactor, there's not even any reacting to this. We also have mechanized production in the deck, which can lead to a win when we start making tons of robots or Thopters or treasures. But it's a much more valid win con when we look at the last of our victory vectors. It takes all of the lines and mashes them together to win with infinite turns. Magistrate's Scepter only needs 3 charge counters to be able to take an extra turn. So if we follow the same kind of line we did above, moving charge counters onto the Scepter, we can take multiple turns in a row. Across those turns, we find more ways to move more charge counters onto the Scepter, and we can just dig until we hit our other combo lines. Putting 3 charge counters at a time on the Scepter is something that we can do too, even without our commander in play. Let's take a look at some of our overlapping synergies we can include in the deck to play into those lines. Since Donatello has a tap ability for 3 counters each activation, we could make the most of it to make our machines huge. Here's where Marvin Murderous Mimic is just another, cheaper version of Donatello that can activate the turn we cast our commander. And where untap effects like Freed from the Real and Pemen's Aura start to go bananas. A single blue mana is 3 more counters on a creature, meaning we can stack up an evasive attacker to massive sizes. Or turn each blue mana into a lightning bolt with a walking ballista in play. 3 counters is 3 damage, and this is a mono blue deck. We have nothing but blue mana. Danny Pink loves these synergies too, turning us into drawing a card for a single blue mana for each creature you control, and that can be a ton of card advantage. But dropping one of these untap effects on a core tapper can go crazy. Remember that Magistrate Scepter? Well, a core tapper with an aura on it turns it into blue, 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 take an extra turn. We still have all of our resources and all of our mana to go to town with too. That is a surefire game win. With maybe the biggest synergy overlap being Moxite Refinery. It's making waves already. Everyone underestimates this cheap little artifact, but being able to turn charge counters into +1/+1 counters and vice versa is nutty. It's essential redundancy for Donatello, but can also act as a way to turn the 20 +1/+1 counters we have on a Big Mother Mouser into 20 charge counters on a Darksteel Reactor. Or turning 30 charge counters on an Eternity Vessel into 30 +1/+1 counters on an Ink Moth Nexus. Did you get attacked while having that Sun Droplet in play? Well, those counters can all get converted or moved so that you can take your revenge. No sacrifice outlets required here, just pure counter-based efficiency. The new Chrome Dome, though, helps act as everything we need, counter creator and sacrifice outlet. By creating a clone of an artifact that enters with counters, like an Eternity Vessel or Surge Node, it'll enter with the counters and at the end of turn sacrifice itself, letting you move those counters around with Donatello. You can do this to rebuy Enter's effects on Cyberdrive Awakener or Thought Monitor every turn for 5 mana. But Donnie's ability requires sacrifice outlets to really work to our benefit. Arcbound Ravager, Extruder, and Kurok Clan Ironworks being the most efficient, but what others can we include? I like the new Technodrome here too. It's a tap effect so you can only do it once per turn, but it draws you a card as well. Great if you're gearing up to take infinite turns, and makes for a sturdy attacker late game when you've stacked up counters. Repurposing Bay is a birthing pod for artifacts that lets you tutor combo pieces directly into play. Being able to get an uncounterable Darksteel Reactor into play while also moving counters around is a huge play. But our nuts and bolts keep us lean and efficient. We want to be artifact heavy. I've included a few counter spells on An Offer You Can't Refuse and Swan Song, and I've also included some board wipes like Wave Goodbye and Desynchronization, which we can turn entirely one-sided thanks to our deck's construction. We even have a tutor like Whir of Invention or Inventor's Fair that lets us grab one of our combo pieces straight to play at instant speed for more surprise ways to finish the table off. While more redundancy for Donatello in the Ozolith, at least when it comes to counters on creatures, means that we can be more consistent and get punished less by board wipes. I've also tucked a great blue gotcha spell, Ripples of Potential, into the deck. Phase out all of your stuff with counters on it in response to a board wipe to make sure that you're untapping for a win. Huge plays are really the name of the game in this deck, like activating a Vexing Puzzle Box, then shifting all of the charge counters to an Insight Engine to draw most of your library. Or casting Desynchronization on an opponent's turn to untap with your army of robots ready to attack into empty opposition. Or to stop a lethal swing in its tracks and make sure everyone wishes you had that Cyclonic Rift instead. Or moving counters onto a Hangerback Walker, then sacrificing it with a Kappa Cannoneer in play to attack with a massive, unblockable machine. Now that's a turtle for you. Whether it's small synergies or big combos, small swings or big plays, this deck has it all. It is a bracket 4 deck, higher power combo machine. I've even included a few game changers like Rhystic Study and Ancient Tomb to push its power level as high as possible. For those afraid of decks like this, winning the game is not a bad thing. It's not a dirty word. It's when it happens at a time or in a way that the rest of the pod doesn't consent to that is the real issue. I'm sure a lot of the pre-order prices on the new Ninja Turtle cards are inflating this brew a lot, so look for those cards at least to drop in price very quickly. Let me know what you think about this mono blue artifact heavy layered combo deck down in the comments. Are you brewing anything from Ninja Turtles? And what do you want to see from me next? And don't leave without checking out my sponsors like Card Conduit. They are hands down the easiest way to sell your individual Magic cards without the hassle of traditional buy listing. They'll get you top dollar while handling all of the heavy lifting, from sorting to grading to optimizing your price across a huge network of vendors. And they'll give you cold hard cash for it. You can use the promo code MECHANIC right now for 10% off of all fees. And if you want to pick up the cards for this list, make sure to go check out Card Trader. Use my promo code MECHANIC right now for 5% off your order from any TCG. Card Trader's zero system means you can get cards from all over the world with only one shipping fee. Save money and time today. Lastly, you can check out all of my decks on MOXFIELD. MOXFIELD is the best deck building platform in the world and makes it easy to build decks and search for specific cards with their powerful tools. Have you checked out their drag and drop feature yet? It's revolutionary. Be sure to check out my brews and follow my profile there right now. If you were inspired to brew today, you have to hit that subscribe button. Check out this other deck on my channel right now for more sweet tech. And as always folks, good luck and have fun.